Hi everybody, in this episode we're going to learn how and why we top dress our trees. So in this episode we're going to look at why and how we top dress our trees for early spring and through summer also, through the summer heat. So if you didn't know so far that certain trees, they don't like their roots to be too hot. And that if you see some heat stress on your trees, the leaves are a little burnt, a lot of leaves burning, that's not from chemicals from your water or your fertilizer. It may be because your roots are stressed. Okay, as we come into warmer weathers now, there's ways to protect your trees. One way that most people use, and people in Japan use a lot, nurserymen in Japan use this a lot. They use sphagnum moss. Okay, they shred it, soak it in water, and they put this layer on top. So it does two things. One, it insulates the trees, the roots itself from overheating, almost like a small blanket, a breathable blanket. Think about it that way. Okay. So part two is if it's recently been repotted, if you spray your hose on it, you can know some of the akadama, some of your pumice or your scoria gets sprayed out. So it does a second purpose is holding everything in place. So I use it on all my trees, especially on my maples that gets really heat sensitive. I'll put a layer on and I don't even take it off. Usually around when I repot, that's when I kind of scrape them all off. Or if I'm ready for a show, that's when I scrape it all off. Okay, so let me turn the camera around so you can see what I'm doing and the materials I have. We're here in the point of view mode here. So I recently repotted this Japanese maple. You can see from all my cuttings here. I recently trimmed back down to 1 or 2 notes on all the branches. Okay, but my roots are really exposed. You can see there's some dry spots already. So what I'm putting on top, this stuff, is shredded long fiber sphagnum moss. Okay, and I'm just gonna liberally. Okay, here's my slot. Let me give you what my slot looks like. Okay, right there. The tub, I shred it. I soak it in water. I let it sit for a while, and I use a handful of it, and I'm like little mats. I put it on my tree. So, and if you are lucky, you'll have this New Zealand sphagnum moss, and I like to put it on wet. It's just a lot easier to spread out. And I let it biodegrade literally right on top. I'll use about, because all my trees right now, I'll use about 5 pounds of this stuff. Preferably I use it by 10 pounds at a time. And it was relatively inexpensive a couple years ago. Right now, with the supply chain issue, I'm having trouble even buying 2.5 pounds. And this is not even New Zealand sphagnum moss. This is actually, I think, Peruvian, I think. But the reason why we use, people use New Zealand, the long strand New Zealand, it has some like bio-beneficial antibacterial stuff on it, which I'm not 200% on it. This is just anecdotal information that I'm hearing, no scientific proof yet. But if you want those surface roots to really grow in your pot here, this is one trick I guarantee will work. I just put a really thin layer, and then if I need to, excuse me, sorry about that. If I need to come back and remoss this again, right at the beginning of summer because it will degrade. I'm not kidding, it will degrade. But just like a great jacket, it will hold moisture on top, keep the humidity high. Okay, this is not a rough bark maple or a cork elm, or I wouldn't be putting so close near the trunk. It will rot that trunk off. Okay, this nice thin layer like that, it stops. It stops the slows down the evaporation process. It has a lot of beneficials of putting sphagnum moss. I've seen other people use synthetic materials to insulate their trees from hot weather. I've seen Roy Nagatoshi use what is that? Styrofoam, white styrofoam, and it's a two process. I asked him a question: why use styrofoam? One is to reflect the heat, and because styrofoam is a great insulator, insulates that root ball. So, and because he has a big nursery and it's relatively inexpensive, it doesn't biodegrade. He uses that on some of his bigger trees. But again, to water, he has to lift it up, a little cover, and there's a relative, like many sticks. I don't know, that was the first stick I found. So this is not a bad batch. I'll see if I can put in the description the vendor I use. I think I bought this on Amazon, I think. Oh yeah, don't go to your like Armstrong nursery and say, do you have sphagnum moss? Because they'll give you the wrong type. I'm just trying to cover most of the spots. Nice even layer. And again, I might come back in the summertime if this degrades a little too much. Okay. And then put another layer on top. I might scrape off the original layer and put a new layer on top. Or I might just put it on top again. But again, if you're not putting your tree in a show and you don't have like real moss, this is what I use. So again, let me go back to the other camera and then we'll finish this up really quick. So let's kind of wrap this up really quick. Again, you want to use sphagnum moss. Let me turn this guy around. I'll leave it. It's fine. You want this long fiber sphagnum moss, hopefully from New Zealand. If you can't get it from New Zealand, Peruvian will work pretty well too, and it's commercially available. With a supply chain issue, this is pretty tough to come by. If you ask other people, they're very scarce. Okay, but if you go to like an Armstrong or a high-end nursery, you might pick up this stuff. The green moss stuff. This is not what you want. It is not the same. It doesn't shred as easy. It's not as friendly to use. So something, just a heads up on that. This is not what you want, okay? But the Spanish moss, you want to use that New Zealand sphagnum moss, okay? Yeah, this is really, I'm gonna do this to all my trees. I usually don't do it in here. It's usually done outside. But it does really good for your insulating the trees, insulating the roots, keep them cool, especially when we get these really hot spells. If you just repot it, it's a great way to stop water from eroding away from the top, or soil from eroding from the top when you're watering it. And then again, the sphagnum moss has this beneficial property that really antibacterial stuff that goes onto the tree. So if that's anecdotal, who knows? But you know what? I'll take it as a win. But if you guys have another product that you guys use to top dress your trees, put that in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Other than that, like and subscribe. I'd love to hear from you guys later. Thank you very much. Love you guys. Bye-bye.